I did not discover my husband through lipstick or perfume. I found him through a bank code that did not belong to our life. My name is Claire Hawthorne. I am 39 years old, and for 7 years I believed I was married to a man who loved stability as much as I did. We lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, in a quiet neighborhood where the trees arched over the streets like old guardians. From the outside our home looked calm and settled. From the inside something had started to feel off. There is a certain way sunlight falls through the front windows of our living room in the late afternoon. It usually feels warm and familiar, like the house is welcoming you back. But lately the light felt thin and cold, like it was passing through something hollow. That was when I knew something was wrong. Not because Lucas had done anything obvious. Not because of another woman or a strange message. It was because the air between us had changed. Lucas Hawthorne was my husband. He worked in consulting and he had always been charming, always confident. We had routines that never changed. Friday takeout, Sunday grocery trips, morning coffee at the same time every day. That kind of predictability makes you feel safe. It makes you believe nothing bad can sneak into your life unnoticed. But 3 weeks ago something shifted. He started keeping his phone closer. He smiled a little too much. And I started feeling like I was sharing a house with someone who was slowly packing up a secret behind my back. I did not panic. I did not confront him. I did what I do best. I watched. And what I was about to uncover would turn my marriage into a battlefield I never asked for but was forced to fight. It started with small things that were easy to ignore if you wanted to keep believing in your marriage. Lucas used to leave his phone on the kitchen counter while he cooked or answered emails. He would even ask me to reply to messages for him if his hands were wet. There was nothing to hide because he believed there was nothing to hide. Then he stopped doing that. The phone moved from the counter to his pocket, then from his pocket to his nightstand. Then it started facing down whenever he put it on the table. One evening we were sitting on the couch watching a show we had seen many times before. His phone buzzed between us. I glanced down and saw a small moon symbol on the screen. Do not disturb. Lucas never used that setting. He always said he needed to be reachable. Before I could say anything his hand shot out and grabbed the phone. Just work stuff, he said without looking at me. His eyes stayed on the screen. His jaw tightened like he was holding something back. Later that night he took the phone into the bathroom when he went to shower. The water ran. I stared at the closed door and felt something in my chest tighten. 7 years together and suddenly I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. The next morning he kissed my cheek instead of my lips. He drank his coffee too fast. He checked his watch every few seconds. It felt like he was counting down to something I did not know about. I told myself I was being dramatic, that marriages go through phases, but deep down it felt like hearing a quiet leak inside the walls. You cannot see it yet, but you know something is slowly breaking. The proof did not come from a message or a confession, it came from something far more ordinary. Our bank account. The joint account Lucas and I used for bills, groceries, and the mortgage. One quiet morning I logged in to pay the electricity bill and scrolled through the transaction list. Everything looked normal at first: utility companies, grocery stores, gas stations. Then I saw a charge that did not belong, $12.50. The name was shortened and unclear. HBR Consult. I had never heard of it. I clicked on the details. There was no address, no phone number, just a processing code. I kept scrolling. A week earlier, $18, same name. 2 weeks before that, $9. Always HBR Consult. Small amounts, easy to ignore. The kind of charges that hide in the background of a busy account, but they followed a pattern. They appeared once a week, like a subscription, like something that needed to stay active. My heart started beating slower and heavier. This was not coffee or lunch. This was not random. It felt like someone testing the water before jumping in. Lucas had never mentioned this company. He had never asked about it. And yet it was quietly pulling money from our shared life over and over again. I closed the laptop without calling him. If I asked, he would have an answer ready. Something smooth, something harmless, and I would be forced to choose between believing him or believing my instincts. So I chose silence, because silence is how you hear the truth. And whatever HBR Consult was, it did not belong to our marriage. 3 days after I noticed the strange charges, something else changed. Lucas came home early from work carrying a large bouquet of pale pink flowers. He had never been the kind of man who bought flowers without a reason. He set them on the kitchen counter like a peace offering and smiled in a way that felt too careful. He cooked dinner. He poured wine. He laughed at my jokes before I even finished telling them. It was not affection. It was performance. The kind of charm people use when they want something. During dessert, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me with soft eyes. "You know, Claire," he said, "I have been thinking about our finances. We have so many separate accounts, savings, investments, emergency funds. It feels messy. Maybe we should consolidate everything into one place. It would be cleaner, safer, just in case anything ever happened." The words were gentle, but the meaning was not. In my world, consolidation means control. It means turning many doors into one key. I nodded and said, "Maybe next month. Work is crazy right now." His smile twitched for just a second before returning. "Of course," he said, "no rush." But there was a rush. I could feel it. That night I checked the bank again. The charges were still there, quiet and steady. The flowers on the counter were starting to open, bright and beautiful, just like a distraction. The next morning, Lucas left early for a meeting. As soon as the garage door closed, I walked into the home office. We shared a wireless printer. Most people forget those machines remember everything. I pressed the menu button and scrolled through recent jobs. My heart sank when I saw the list. Boarding pass. Grocery list. Asset division worksheet version 2. I stared at the small screen. Asset division, not a budget, not a plan, a division. He was already splitting our life into pieces. I did not print the file. That would leave a trail. Instead, I took a photo of the screen with my phone showing the date and time. Then I backed out of the menu and left the printer exactly as it was. I went into the kitchen and made coffee. The flowers were still on the counter. They looked bright and innocent. I adjusted one leaf and smiled. From that moment on, I was no longer a wife waiting for honesty. I was an observer gathering evidence. Lucas thought he was preparing to leave me. He did not know I was preparing to see everything. 2 days later, I saw Lucas in a place he was not supposed to be. I was walking near downtown Raleigh on my way to a meeting when I noticed him standing under a small cafe awning. He was pacing with his phone pressed to his ear. He had told me he was at a job site across town. I stopped behind a concrete pillar. My heart began to race. "We cannot wait that long," he said. "I am doing what we discussed. She is starting to ask questions about the accounts." He listened. His face was tight and focused. "I know the timeline," he said. "Just relax. Once we get her signature, everything will be fine. You said it yourself. Just make her feel guilty and she will sign." Then a woman's voice came through the speaker loud enough for me to hear. "Do not go soft, Lucas. You need that signature by Friday. I am not waiting forever." He whispered her name. "Vanessa." My stomach dropped. This was not a lover talking. This was a strategist. Lucas ended the call and walked away. I stayed frozen for a long moment. He was not cheating. He was executing a plan. That night, Lucas fell asleep with his laptop still open beside him. I moved quietly like a stranger in my own bedroom. The screen was dim but active. I tapped the trackpad and a file window appeared. I searched by date first. A folder opened. Project Blue. Inside were calendar entries for mediation sessions. They went back 2 months. There were invoices. Thousands of dollars paid to consulting firms I had never heard of. The dates matched the strange charges on our bank account. Then I saw the document that made my hands shake. Postnuptial Draft Version 4. It was written as a love document, a recommitment to marriage, but every clause stripped me of rights. It said that in the event of divorce, anything not clearly listed as joint property would go to Lucas. That was the plan. He would tell me our marriage was in trouble. He would say he felt insecure. He would ask me to sign this to prove my loyalty. Then once it was signed, he would file for divorce and walk away with everything. I took photos of every page. I closed the laptop. Lucas was not leaving me. He was trying to erase me. The next morning, I sat across from a woman named Rachel Moore in an office that smelled of old paper and polished wood. I showed her the photos from Lucas's laptop. She did not gasp. She did not look shocked. She simply nodded as if she had seen this story 1,000 times before. "He is not confused," she said. "He is coordinated." I told her about my inheritance from my aunt and the savings I had before I married Lucas. Money I had always kept separate for emergencies. Rachel leaned forward. "That money is your shield," she said, "but only if we move it now. Once he files for divorce, everything freezes." If it is still in your name inside the marriage, he can trap you. I hesitated. It felt wrong to move things without telling him. You are not betraying him, Rachel said. You are protecting yourself. We created a separate property trust that afternoon, my inheritance, my premarital savings. Everything was transferred into it. The money disappeared from the accounts Lucas could see. Before I left, Rachel gave me one more instruction. Set a small trap, she said. Open a new bank account. Put a little money in it. Leave it visible at home. If he is watching you, he will try to access it. That night I did exactly that. 5 minutes later my phone buzzed. Failed login attempt. Lucas was already trying to steal what he thought was mine. I sat on the couch pretending to scroll through my phone while Lucas moved around the house. He walked past the coffee table where my laptop was still open. I watched his eyes flick toward the screen. He did not touch it. He did not need to. He memorized what he saw. A few minutes later I heard his footsteps retreat to his office. I counted silently. Then my phone vibrated. Security alert. Failed login attempt. The trap had worked. Lucas was not just hiding things, he was actively watching me, tracking me, trying to access anything that looked like money. I felt something change inside me. The fear drained out. What remained was clarity. If he was hunting, I would not run. I would make sure he walked into every snare I set. 2 days later I followed Lucas. Our car shared a navigation system. It stored location history. One address kept appearing over and over again. A renovated warehouse complex on the south side of Raleigh. That afternoon I waited 3 blocks away. When his car passed, I followed at a distance. He parked under a metal awning. I parked across the street. Rain tapped against my windshield. Then I saw her. Vanessa Reed walked out of the building with him. She did not look like a mistress. She looked like a commander. Sharp suit, cold eyes, professional posture. Lucas pulled out a thick envelope and handed it to her. She opened it just long enough for me to see the logo. My company. My firm. He was giving her my work. They shook hands. I took photos until my hands ached. This was no longer about divorce. They were trying to destroy me. That evening I went to a notary office in a nearby town. The man behind the desk looked at my name and paused. Hawthorne, he said. Your husband was here 2 weeks ago. My heart stopped. He asked about spousal acknowledgments, the notary continued. Wanted to know if he could bring in papers you had already signed. Rachel was right. Lucas was not just planning to trick me. He was planning to fake my signature. I called my lawyer in the parking lot. She told me to record a video of myself signing my name multiple times and declaring I had not signed any financial documents. That video would become my shield if he tried to forge anything. That night I did it. Lucas thought paper could trap me. I made sure truth would destroy him instead. The next evening Lucas placed a stack of papers on the kitchen counter. He told me they were for a simple refinance. Lower interest, smaller payments, more freedom. It was a lie. Rachel had already warned me. He was applying for a home equity line of credit for $250,000. If I signed, I would be legally responsible for the debt while he drained the cash. I told him I needed time to read them. He grew impatient. His voice sharpened. Why do you make everything difficult? He asked. Do you not trust me? That was the moment his mask slipped. I sent him a message that night stating clearly that I refused to sign any loan or credit agreement. I needed it in writing. I needed proof. He never replied. Because he knew I had just blocked his biggest move. The threat started quietly, an email with no name, no subject, just one sentence. Do the right thing before things get ugly. I forwarded it to Rachel. That night Lucas stepped outside to take a call. Almost instantly my phone began to buzz. Login attempt detected. Password incorrect. Account locked for your protection. He was trying to break into my accounts while standing in my backyard. I watched him through the glass door. His face was tense. His fingers were moving fast on his tablet. He was listening to someone giving him instructions. Vanessa. They were not asking anymore. They were trying to take. The next morning my lawyer called, before I even finished my coffee. Lucas had filed an emergency motion in family court, asking for all marital assets to be frozen. He claimed he believed I was hiding money. It was the oldest trick in the book. Accuse first so you look innocent. But the timing saved me. 3 days earlier, my inheritance and my premarital savings had already been moved into my separate property trust. They were no longer part of the marriage. They were no longer something a judge could freeze. Lucas had pulled the trigger too late. He thought he was trapping me. Instead, he had just locked himself inside a cage. The conference room was cold and bright. Lucas sat beside his lawyer wearing a new suit and a confident smile. He looked like a man who believed he was about to win. Rachel placed a thick folder on the table. First, she showed the trust documents, the notary stamps, the bank confirmations, the proof that my inheritance and my premarital savings were protected before Lucas filed anything. Then she revealed the shell company, the strange charges, the fake consulting firm, the connection to Vanessa Reed. Lucas went pale. He tried to speak, but the numbers did not lie. Thousands of dollars from our joint account had been sent directly to a company tied to the woman he was working with. Rachel did not raise her voice. She simply asked for every dollar back, and for his request for spousal support to be denied. Lucas broke. He admitted Vanessa had told him what to do. That was all the room needed. Lucas sat very still. The man who had once filled every room with confidence now looked small. His lawyer avoided his eyes. The folder on the table felt heavier than any argument. I stood up. I did not scream. I did not insult him. I did not ask why. I simply said goodbye. For 7 years I had believed marriage meant trust, but real trust is built on truth, and Lucas had tried to build his future on lies. I walked out of the room knowing he could no longer touch my money, my work, or my future. I was free. If there is one thing I want you to remember from my story, it is this: silence is not weakness. Calm is not surrender. When someone underestimates you, they give you time to protect yourself. If this story helped you feel stronger, leave a comment and tell me where you are watching from. I read every single one. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, please like, share, and subscribe to The Art of Revenge. Your support helps more people find their way out of toxic relationships and into their own power. Thank you for listening.